Corey Graves, but now they have a new title, Mom and Dad. They talk to us about the complicated pregnancy journey that's led them to expecting their first child together. Then, they are the love stories that make us laugh, cry, and sometimes even blush. We talked to the host of the New York Times popular Modern Love podcast about the stories that shocked her the most on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
In this job, you take your eye off it for 1 second. People can die.
Don't think, just do it.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter.
Did a great thing today.
It's all because of you.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. and 12:05 a.m. You're watching WDAY Extra. Hot Mic with Dom Izzo.
Really? Really, Dom?
No. I like what Dom's doing.
Okay.
Dom Izzo.
Jeez, come on, Dom. What do you think I am, a magician?
Yeah, I'm fired up, Dom. What else could I say?
Absolutely. It was great to get on the field, and then Dom came up to me, and I'm trying to walk away from me. I just wanted to enjoy myself out there.
Hot Mic.
Great job.
There's got to be some kind of intelligent question about something. Is
Hot Mic. Hot Mic. On the networks of WDAY.
You know, if it's not about sports, I find it very hard to concentrate.
Here's Dom Izzo. Dom Izzo.
Good Wednesday morning. This is, I Guess I Was Wrong edition of Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, Inforum.com, and streaming live at Sioux Falls Live on a happy hump day, the final day of May 2023. We are 5 full months into 2023. If that's not scary, I can't even begin to describe it. Now we're on the back half of the year. Beginning tomorrow, which is crazy enough. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Hot Mic on a Wednesday. I am Dom Izzo, host of said show. Great to be with everyone on what's going to be a warm Wednesday on the eve of the busiest weekend in North Dakota high school prep sports, as we have 6 state tournaments that are set to begin tomorrow all over the state, majority here on the eastern side, tennis in Grand Forks, soccer here in Fargo, softball for Class A in Fargo, Class A baseball in West Fargo, Class B softball and baseball out in Minot. And then we wrap it up next week with Class A and B boys golf, and then we are done on the North Dakota side of things. Minnesota will still have a few more weeks to go. So hopefully, and it looks like the weather's going to be good for everybody to get everything done over the next couple days. And, of course, we'll feature that on our show to wrap up the week. Lots to get to today. The Vikings are back on the field. We mentioned it is May 31, so likely we're going to have some Dalvin Cook news in the next 24 to 48 hours. Today is the deadline for underclassmen in the NBA draft. Either you stay or you're heading back to school. We know Grant Nelson's immediate future. We're going to discuss that here in just a second. And the Minnesota Twins still can't hit. Doesn't matter if Royce Lewis is back with the team. 1 day reprieve is not enough. And more importantly, today may be the final day that you can watch the Twins on Bally Sports North. A story we've been telling you for the better part of 6 months may actually come to a conclusion today. The Padres are already off their network. Major League Baseball has taken broadcasts over for them, and it may happen for the Twins as early as today. We'll get into that in about a half hour. I want to make sure we clear out some space to discuss it because it's a story we've been talking about for a while. And I think for a lot of Twins fans that watch our show, Dick Bremer is going to be on today. We can ask him. I know there's only so much that he either can say or knows. He's an employee of the Twins, which the games are on Bally Sports North. So I think there's only a certain amount that he can say. We'll ask, but I think we may have to go a different direction on trying to get our answers on that. So we'll discuss that coming up here in just a little bit. Let's begin with the big news, which is obviously on the big man. North Dakota State's Grant Nelson has withdrawn his name from the NBA draft. His agent confirmed that with John Rothstein from CBS Sports. Our Mike McFeely and myself both reported that yesterday, that he is going to return to school. Now, what that means going forward is pretty self-evident, that he's not coming back here. Again, we discussed this over the last, I'd say, 2 to 3 weeks, that this was Plan B. That's how it was described to me. Plan A was always for the NBA draft. 2 sources I spoke with last night told me that mainly the decision on this was he was still viewed as a late second-round pick. And when you're late in the second round, you're awfully close to being undrafted. So what does this mean? A, means he's going to play the 2023-24 season somewhere. B, it means he's ready to go through this whole process again and believe that he can elevate himself up to either end of the first round, early second round. We got to change that graphic. He's 6'10", according now to the NBA Combine. Wingspan's still the same, but he is 6'10" officially. They were fudging that a bit eventually up on the north side of town. So I mentioned I was wrong. Not the first time that's going to happen. Not the last either. Because I was told, and I think had the reports come in that he was going to be a mid to high second round pick, I think he would have stayed in. I do. But the feedback that his camp got was that that was not where he was projected to go. And I've had a couple of people either tweet or email me saying, well, he was never ready to begin with and never should have done this. That, to me, is baloney. That video went viral and sparked attention, the fact that we had NBA scouts attending North Dakota State basketball games, not only here in town, when they were on the road, and at the Summit League tournament. I can tell you, they were sitting right next to me on press row, all right? So there was legitimate buzz. There was legitimate interest. And he wouldn't have received an invite to the Combine had there not been legitimate interest. I can't emphasize that enough. There's only a certain amount. Was it 75 guys that got invited there? Right? He was one of them. So that tells you what the NBA at least thought of him and wanted to see. Now, what they saw, and we feature this, and we talked about it a couple weeks ago when he was there, was he did not perform at his best during the scrimmages. There's no doubt about that. And maybe some more seasoning is needed against maybe better competition. And that goes to what the next step is. Because now he will have his school of choice, and veritable school of choice to pick from here. And it is a who's who. Now, again, speaking with his team on this, they had over 30 to 35 schools reach out. I know Mike and I talked about it yesterday. And it is a who's who from Kansas, Kentucky, Alabama, Arkansas, Gonzaga, you name it, that had reached out to him. From the people around him have told me that they have now narrowed that list down to 3 to 5 schools. I would imagine some of those schools I just mentioned, UCLA, USC, may still be in there. It may be a dark horse that we're not talking about. You know, the schools that we just mentioned, Kentucky, Kansas, Villanova, Gonzaga, Alabama. I wouldn't discount an Alabama, knowing full well what they had. And I know they had horrendous things happening off the floor there. Eric Musselman, who's the head coach, obviously his dad with tremendous NBA ties, plays an NBA-style offense there. That might be a legit fit. Arkansas may be another in the SEC. They've seen those schools. He knows guys from those schools. played against Arkansas, as we well know, to start the season this past year. So that's the next part of this. And I think for folks that were holding out hope that he would be back in a Bison uniform, I think that ship sailed when he entered the portal. And you can lament that because the Bison wrestling team is now going through that, which we'll tell you about later in the show. There are harder feelings on that, and Dave Richmond's made no bones about it when he's come on our show. I think that there is, I don't know if hard feelings is the right word, but certainly when you develop a guy and then see that happen, that might be the end of things. We've seen it happen at North Dakota State for football, for basketball, and this is a different situation than other guys that have left. Even other guys that left off this year's team, like Des McKinney, who left. The writing was on the wall there for each party. I think the Bison knew they were moving on in a different direction. I think Des firmly knew as he sat out all last season that he wasn't going to play here, that it wasn't going to materialize for him here. This is different. And I hope that all parties on this can see the light of day on it. But it's a tough deal. It is. For Bison fans today that see this and probably in their heart of hearts know he's not coming back wherever he decides to go, that will be I'm interested in that reaction. If it's a Jabril Cox kind of reaction after Jabril did amazing things here. He won 3 national championships. He won every major award outside of the Buchanan, and he could have won it in his sophomore year here in Fargo. Grant did tremendous things. You know, freshman of the year, 6th man of the year, his freshman season, to all Summit League the last 2 years. The one thing he didn't do was get his team to the NCAA tournament. Yep. They made it to that championship game every year he was here. Every year, freshman, sophomore, junior season, they were playing in that title game. That could be the one knock you could have on him, if you want to call it that. But I'm interested in the reaction whenever he decides of where he's going to go, what that will be. If it's going to be, I don't know if hostile is too strong a word, or negative reaction, or just wish him well. I'm curious on that. But that is the big news there. It came a bit earlier. I thought we would get news today, but it dropped yesterday, and we have not heard from Grant. I would be intrigued and maybe hopeful that he put out I'm sure, of some sort of social media statement. He's not a big Twitter guy. Maybe it's an Instagram message, something of that nature. And if that happens, we'll pass that along here on our show today, or certainly on the news tonight, on the decision to withdraw from the NBA draft and head back to school. And again, the list of suitors is long. From what I've been told, they've whittled that list down to 3 to 5. And now it's a matter of, honestly, it's a matter of money. Who can pay him the most and name, image, likeness of where he can go and maximize his value for the next level, and get ready for that. There's two options. There's two things here. It's maximizing his draft potential at a higher profile school and making a good amount of change. 6 figures is the minimum. And when I say that, I'm talking like 100,000, because it's up from there. And for those that have a hard time reckoning with that, there's not much I can tell you to feel better about. This is the name of business now in Division I athletics, in big boy Division I athletics, and that's where Grant Nelson is swimming right now. We can get back into that here in just a little bit. I wanted to wrap up our opening segment. I teased it because off of the portal news with Nelson, the Bison wrestling team is dealing with it with their 2 top wrestlers. The news came down late yesterday that both Jared Franek and Michael Caliendo, both All-Americans just a couple months ago, are in the NCAA transfer portal. Franek, of course, has 1 year of eligibility. We had Jared on the show right after his All-American finish at the NCAA championships. He took 4th. excited about coming back and using his bonus year of eligibility. Of course, that was before the news that Roger Kish was leaving to take the job at Oklahoma. Caliendo is one we talked about. I know we talked about it on this show, that his unbelievable freshman season, which included being the number one wrestler in his weight class earlier this year at an All-American finish, was going to get people's attentions. And with the amount of eligibility he has left, he has 3 years left, that was going to get some schools interested. And I don't know if it's directly tied to Kish leaving, but each of them are in. And there is a substantial amount of money going to be thrown at each of these guys. And again, it's not just in football and basketball that are getting the big-time money offers. Both of them are being basically wooed, romanced by six-figure offers of name, image, likeness. And the rebuttal will be from Bison fans on this is, what do we do about this? What are we doing about this? What can we do about this? And it's a familiar refrain I've had. A collective would be a heck of a start here, folks. I don't know what you're waiting on. I know you Bison fans out there have got plenty of change lying around. You want to at least try and keep your guys? Start something. It's not, NDSU can't do it. Okay? For those that are thinking, well, the school can do this, they can't. That's against the rules. There are some rules on this. They can't. It's going to take some ingenuity, some thoughtfulness from, and I know they're out there. I've spoken to them. They've come up to me in the tailgate lots all the time. Someone of that ilk to go ahead and put their money where their mouth is and say, this is what we're going to do. And we're going to pay, and it's not just the football team. It can't be. It's got to be everybody. At least that's my opinion. May not work that way, but that would be me. Unless you want to have some really PO'd people and say, this is what we're going to do. At least get our foot in the door. Instead of losing two guys that they recruited and found. Nelson's a different case. They weren't keeping Grant. That ship had sailed. But these two guys, Jarrett's West Fargo kid. At least get in the conversation. Those football players that left, you want to get in the conversation there, have something. That should be their homework for the summer. You know, as we're ready to start June and the athletic calendar is basically wrapping up. Here's your homework assignment for the summer. Start something. Get something going. Because this is not the end of it. It's only gonna continue. I can't say get worse, but the higher profile stars, I'm looking right at you, L. Evans. That's another one. Bison women's basketball had a great renaissance this year. I joked about it. How long is she going to be here? Maybe another year? Jory Collins has got to be wondering that. I'm not saying anything out of school here. I'm sure he's thought about it. Just because it doesn't happen a whole lot of women's basketball doesn't mean it doesn't happen. Look at Haley Van Lin, who was maybe the third or fourth best player in women's basketball. She left Louisville, right? Not exactly a bad program, and she went to LSU, the reigning champs. Okay? So you want to stop this? You want to curb it? Do something. Because right now, you're watching them go out the door. Hey, you know what? We built you up. All-American, okay. So next March, when we see Caliendo maybe on the top of the podium at Iowa or Oklahoma State, something like that, I don't know how that's going to go over. Tough news there. Story that we've been talking about, not going anywhere anytime soon. Lots to get to here today on our Wednesday show. Drew Trafton right around the corner. We'll, of course, chat some NFL. The Vikings were back on the field yesterday for OTAs. They actually announced a couple of joint practices. We'll discuss that as more NFL teams are doing that. At 10 o'clock, of course, Dick Bremer will be with us. The Twins offense, again, went dormant yesterday, even though Royce Lewis is there. They managed all of 6 hits in their loss to the Astros. We'll discuss that as they wrap up the series in Houston coming up at 10 o'clock. And at 10:35, the pride of Kenmare, North Dakota, Jacob Rodin will join us after his great run over the weekend to qualify the first Bison man to run an individual race in the NCAA track championships. He'll be from Kenmare, North Dakota. He qualified in the 800 meters. He's the 800-meter record holder at the school, and he'll join us at 10:35 before we say goodbye here on this Wednesday. So we are off and rolling. We'll take a break. Hot Mike returns after this on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls at Inforum.com. We're back right after this.
Somebody has to stand up for victims. It took a lot of courage to get up on that stand.
I promise you, I'll protect you.
Weekdays at 12 p.m.
Every crime scene has secrets.
Every victim has an untold story.
And within every mystery lies the truth.
Our job is to find it. The original true crime series, Dateline.
Weekdays at 1 p.m.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in North Dakota. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the NDHSAA.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way.
Because your community
is our community.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job. For the team
and for the business.
What can I do?
What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
Mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day we encounter people who are having the worst day of their entire lives.
Does it get any easier?
Nope.
It takes a certain kind of person to run towards danger rather than run away from it.
Why is this job so important to you?
Growing up, I never saw any heroes who looked like me.
And that's what a hero looks like.
Help is on the way.
Sundays at 8 p.m.
There are places, people, and conditions in this world that almost seem beyond hope. But not when Mercy Ships is there. Mercy Ships is a place restoring sight to the blind, normalcy to the deformed, beauty and happiness to the outcast, and joy to the brokenhearted.
And many times you could almost see the life coming back into them. Can't beat that.
Mercy Ships is the largest floating civilian hospital in the world, staffed with some of the most skilled volunteer medical professionals and crew. Mercy Ships is the reason why hope is now in sight for those who need it most. To learn more, go to mercyships.org today.
The biggest Seahawks, Sounders, and Mariners fan in the FM area. It's time for Views with Drew.
Well, I just saw this story, and Drew does this out of the kindness of his heart. I hope he doesn't ask for a raise, because Andrew Marchand from New York Post is reporting that Pat McAfee's new deal with ESPN. You want to guess? Have you seen this already?
No, I haven't.
You want to guess?
Well, I know his other
FanDuel deal is pretty good.
Wasn't that supposed to be like in the $100 million range? So this is for ESPN, right? Is it like a yearly? What's the numbers? Are we talking like overall contract or year?
You could do overall contract. Want to take a guess?
How long is the contract? Can you give me that?
5 years.
I'll go $550 million. No,
85.
85 for
$17 million a year annually. Remember, ESPN is siphoning people off left and right here.
Well, and that FanDuel thing was always just a rumor.
Right.
Like it had never been confirmed that it was a $100 million deal or whatever, right?
Or something like $30 million a year or something crazy like that.
So that's for the whole show?
Yeah. Yeah, we don't know if that was accurate on that, on the $120 million deal, because that was never verified on that.
I mean, that's a lot of money, though, for a guy who just like came up out of nowhere. And his show on YouTube was so popular.
Yep.
I mean, that's a big deal.
I don't know how they're going to do it on broadcast television. He swears all the time.
Yeah.
Like, I know he said he's not going to say certain words, but I don't know how they bleep all of them out.
I wonder if they like record it and then they.
I don't know. And then it's still going to be live, as far as I could tell.
It's okay.
Yeah, because
and that's kind of part of the fun of it, too.
They're going to do, from what I understand, that Get Up is still going to be on, then First Take, and then his show, and I think the whole show, on television, they're going to do 11 to 2, because Max Kellerman's god awful show is getting axed, and that one is bad. This just in. So
that's interesting. It's almost like he's becoming the, I don't want to say shock jock of sports TV, but very much like kind of almost in a Howard Stern type of mold. Like he's doing that with, instead of entertainment radio, like sports.
The future
radio.
of it, of sports talk, is him.
Yeah,
right
well,
now.
and ESPN always. I mean, they pride themselves on trying to be in front of that stuff,
and getting the stars. You know, if you look at what they have, done over the last 2 years on the star front. They got Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Now they got this guy,
and they're tied into Buck and Aikman, which is fine because I don't.
They're paying Troy Aikman $19 million a year right now.
Yeah,
Joe's getting 17. I think.
Well, I mean, Tony Romo reset that market when he signed his deal with CBS. But then, like, I've heard that. Not that I'm well connected in this world at all, but just like the TV scuttlebutt is that. I mean, Romo might not make it through his deal.
Yeah,
there's that shine has worn off a little bit.
Nance pushed back on that story that came out right after the AFC Championship game, because it seemed like they were on two separate broadcasts. If you actually go back and watch the AFC Championship game with Cincinnati and Kansas City, it seemed like Nance is over here and Tony's here. Like they were not as in sync as they had been a couple years ago. Nance pushed back on it, saying we're fine, but I do think there's something.
Well, there's smoke at that level.
That
I mean, there are at least talks going on.
I don't mind him. More people find him
too.
Find him annoying that he just like in the Bills.
Yeah.
God, what game was the Bills playoff game with the Dolphins? He just was shouting.
Yeah.
Or the Bills Bengals game, he was just. Shouting nonsense, it seemed like.
I think the concern with him is the more he gets removed from his playing career, and he doesn't know the guys, and he doesn't know kind of the current offensive systems as well. That cool gimmick that he had of being able to call everything out.
That's why Greg Olsen was so good.
Yeah,
and Olsen's sitting there wondering after this season,
is he going to be in a broadcast one booth?
Someone's going to get him. Yeah. He's that good.
I don't believe Tom Brady's ever going to set foot in a broadcast booth.
Wow.
That's just, I'm going to call that. Like, even though I know like he signed that massive deal with Fox and they might even like try it out or trot it out, but I just don't, like I don't see it.
Well, it's going to get it's more interesting by the day now that if he owns part of the Raiders as well, how that's going to work.
Well, and like, I don't know. Like I look at, is Sean McVay really going to coach the Rams much longer? Is, like some of these coaches coming out too are going to be, I would imagine they're going to be hot.
Well, that was the story of last year was the NFL free agency on the TV side of things on everybody moving.
Yeah, that's kind of fascinating though. That McAfee landed that deal.
Yep. So that's the next thing.
Have you ever read those books? Those ESPN books?
I have.
Yeah,
the Jim Miller one. All these guys have all the fun is fantastic.
Yes, it's so good.
Really, really good.
So good. If you're a sports fan out there, understanding kind of the nuts and bolts, that really helped me out early on in my broadcast career. Kind of understand how TV works at that level. But having that introduction to this is how that sausage gets made behind the scenes.
He's done a podcast,
really good.
The Origins podcast. I'll recommend for another show out there that. He did it on ESPN, basically on that, on 6 different topics, ranging from PTI to how the 30 for 30 brand came about to College Game Day, and it's over the moon. It's really good.
Those are really cool, and just even the origin story of ESPN itself.
Yes,
I read that one by about how Getty Oil, kind of started. It's really interesting stuff.
I got a couple things for you here. Today, as we know, is the final day of May. Tomorrow's a big day for the NFL because then you can note the June 1 cuts.
Yeah.
Dalvin Cook's name is obviously still out there. He's a member of the Vikings as we sit here at 9:27 on a Wednesday morning. I don't know if he's going to be a Viking come midnight tonight.
Right. Yeah, how quickly those...
ESPN still has it that the Vikes are still wanting to trade him. Like, they want to get something for him.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's tough. It's tough swallowing that, like DeAndre Hopkins getting cut by the Cardinals.
His deal though was way crazy. That no one was going to take that money.
Right. But like it still hurts, right? I mean,
no doubt. Yeah.
I mean, I think they're in a different. Obviously, they're in a completely different echelon when it comes to wanting
in a full
to compete.
tank mode, by the way.
Yeah, I am so worried as a Seahawks fan that Caleb Williams and May are going to end up in L.A. and Arizona.
Wow,
it could happen. It could totally happen. And the Cardinals have
Rams
all of
and the
that.
Cardinals could both be bad at 2024.
And the Cardinals have all that draft capital now anyway, thanks to Houston giving them like their next 12 draft picks, it seems like.
Just on the Dalvin deal, if the post-June 1 cut was the obvious way to handle this from The Athletic, to handle Cook's situation, the Vikings could have made that move months ago, but it's not because the benefits will be minimal. Most of Cook's money resides in his base salary. So several months ago, the Vikings could have cut Cook normally, absorbed his dead cap hit, and then used their nearly $6 million of cap savings toward signing a high-end free agent. Instead, Minnesota's waited, opting instead to secure Cook via a pay cut or trade him for future draft capital.
So they rolled the dice.
They are.
And it seems like it's coming up empty on there, and maybe it was worth it. I don't know. I mean, $6 million does go a long way. It really does. That's too, like, probably like...
Or finishing signing your draft class.
That's your entire draft
class. I mean,
class.
that's why they traded Zadarius Smith, is they could sign Jordan Addison.
Right. Or I mean, like a $6 million player like that. That's a top end linebacker. That's a probably 2 mid-tier edge rushers. Or at least guys that soak up some snaps.
Is it
in rotation?
Money for Kirk if they actually decide that they want to make a deal here? I don't think they're going to.
So I mean,
like you said, it's almost June 1.
Right.
Those talks could happen. I mean, you know what it's money for? It's for JJ. That's what they need it for.
That's
you need to clear out everything for number 18. That's the money you need it for.
I was not a huge proponent of like these massive contracts that wide receivers have been getting.
He gets it.
Justin Jefferson,
yeah, he gets it.
You give the guy a blank check and say whatever number you want.
Right.
Like, I mean, within, like, he is that good. He is important of a cause.
That's why I think they are ready to move on from Kirk. Which sounds counterintuitive because then, okay, we're going to have a young quarterback now throwing to our wide receiver. How is he going to get the ball as much as he does from Cousins now? That's the rub.
But O'Connell's system, like, I mean, it's all, from what I understand, like, it's all about getting in a rhythm, and setting someone in that way. And the way quarterbacks are developed now in college systems, like, I feel like if they find their guy, they'll be okay. But there are going to be so many free agents out there too next year, I think, in the quarterback world, that he can find that guy. And I'm not dissing Kirk Cousins. I'm a lot higher on Kirk Cousins than, I mean, I see the stats. Like, they speak. Like, he is a good quarterback. he is a top 10 quarterback in the league. As much as that, some Vikings fans bemoan that.
It is a unbelievable. I thought there was nothing going to be more volatile with Minnesota's fans than Joe Mauer when the Mauer got his deal and never performed to the MVP level that he got at the year before he got his monster deal until Cousins came.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, you are either a Cousins defender to the nth degree.
You have to be in a camp.
Get him out of here and, drag him out to the street.
Yeah.
It's one or the other.
And I think, we come at it from a dispassionate place, as much as I'm adjacent to it in my own household, and I feel it, I can, I feel like I have a little bit of a clear. He's a good quarterback. Is he worth all that money guaranteed?
No,
probably not.
No,
and that's
Sean Watson.
That's and that's probably the rub. He's just been very, very smart,
and he's been savvy with his deals. Exactly right. he said, you know what? I'll take the shorter deal. Give me all the guaranteed money, and let's go. And I'm sure he's banking on that again. If not from the Vikings, from somebody else that will do that in 2024.
He'll probably get it.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, he's probably going to get it. And at some point, you do have to cut ties if you're the Vikings.
And if you're the Vikes, then what are you doing?
That end?
What's your plan here? Because right now it's Nick Mullins and Jared Hall. That's not a plan.
Yeah, and when you spend that much money on a quarterback position, you have to get some big result out of it. And
they have one playoff win.
Yeah, and it's like, well, I could spend a fraction of that with a rookie, or half of that with a journeyman that I can get approximate.
And look at their division right now, where they are. The other three teams,
they're young,
are not spending. Goff's getting probably a sizable money because that's from this Rams deal.
Yeah,
but the Bears aren't spending anything at that spot, and the Packers are not spending anything at that spot.
The Lions have Hendon Hooker sitting there too. Who's just as old as Jared Goff, but he's a lot less expensive.
I'm fascinated with how this season plays out. I think the Vikings are still going to be good.
Yeah.
Because they always are. The Vikes are not, they're never going to win 3 games. They're going to be 3-14. They're going to win, they'll win 8 to 9, maybe even 10 games this season with a schedule like that. They're always going to be in the hunt.
And that's the purgatory of the NFL.
Right. The perpetual circle of this. It's like, they're not bad enough to blow it up and say, like, okay, we can draft Caleb Williams or Drake May at the 1 or 2 spot.
And you have a very clear path forward.
Correct.
Yeah.
You're going to win 10 games and draft 16th and be stuck in the middle like they were. I don't know.
It's tougher to get out. I feel like in the NFL, with how cyclical it all is, that it's almost tougher to get out of the middle than it is from the bottom, or
if you've been really,
top,
really good,
and then you fall back and you can reload. And
that's what the Rams are banking on. The Rams went all in, won it. Yeah. Now we're going to stink and try and reload and get good again.
Yeah. Not that that's a guaranteed model for success.
Nope.
I mean, but it has certainly worked.
It only works in that sport.
Yeah.
It doesn't work in any other sport like that, by the way.
Basketball, that's no
Basketball
guarantee.
don't work like that.
Baseball, certainly not.
No.
You can get locked away and forever.
You can be bad for the Mariners for 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, it's
the Royals, the Tigers. I mean, the Athletics are going to win
Cincinnati
30 games.
Reds.
Right.
It happens
on that. Great to see you, man.
Hey, thanks
for coming by. Drew Trafton joining us each and every
Did I
Wednesday.
even say anything in that segment? It had some good. I don't know.
I'm interested, by the way, because we're talking about this. That I don't know if you saw, the Bally Sports San Diego has now wiped its hands of the Padres. Major League Baseball's taken over the Padres. The Mariners are on Root
Sports,
which is another one that is probably going to go away here. I don't know how long the Mariners have their deal with them.
I feel like it's a 2. Yeah.
So the Twins could find out. There's a judge that's deciding on this today on this bankruptcy claim with Diamond, who owns Bally, that if they could decide today and yank the games today off the air, and granted, they'll still be on, but they won't be on Bally anymore. It's fascinating on them. Okay, so it's a long deal with there. Eric's telling me that it's through 2030 with Root Sports and the Mariners.
Is there's with these regional carriers, there's it's shaky,
crazy deal.
A little shaky.
We're going to dive into this here in a second, but it's already. We've talked about this, and the Star Tribune did a great spot on this, and I know I'm going super long, but about the fragmentation for sports viewership now with streaming. Of what you need. It was exactly what you and I were talking about last week. And if this happens either today, tomorrow, whenever, that they take the Twins off of Bally, you have already lost so many fans. You won't get them back. They won't. I don't care if even, it's on channel 668 on DirecTV. Now it'll be on 669. They won't.
No.
Because it's set to them.
Yeah.
My father-in-law loves watching the Twins, right? If they go away on his cable system, he's not going to go find the channel to go find, unless I tell him.
Right.
And I don't even think he's going to do that. Right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They're just saying that to me is the thing that baseball has got to be really careful about here, because your fans and all the leagues.
Mm-hmm.
The NFL might be the one exception on that because they only play once a week. But the leagues that play every day, baseball, basketball, hockey, if you make it harder and harder to find your games, good luck.
Yeah, it's an investment. investing
MLS
in a season
is a great example.
They're a perfect example because what they do with Apple.
They're gone. To me, they're gone. I don't know if you bought the package.
I didn't buy the package.
They're gone. They're on Apple TV exclusively now. I used to watch occasionally I'd watch the United play because they were on Bally or they're on ESPN. They're on neither, or Fox. They're on none.
Yeah.
So they're gone to me. MLS has vanished off my radar.
And it would be for me, except my team plays a lot on national TV. Like
Seattle's still on.
They're just one of the more popular teams in MLS, so they play quite a bit. But I'm not going to buy that package. Yeah. You're going to put it on Apple TV? Like, forget it.
Yeah.
That's not convenient for me. It's too much of an investment. Even they only play like 39 games a season, but that's still too many. Like, it's just like, no, I'm not doing that. Forget it.
There's so few people like myself that will either invest in it because I want to watch. I will watch of 162 Met games. I'll watch 150 of them because I want to know. I want to know how they're doing.
Yeah, and it's a connection to home for you too.
Correct,
for sure. Yeah,
but I'm not the typical fan you're trying to get.
Yeah.
You need to get the guy who's been a fan for 30 years to still watch. And if they're disappeared or harder to watch, good.
Right.
Bye-bye.
In baseball, like
COVID taught us one thing. When the sports went away, people found other things to do.
Yes.
And they're okay with that.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to find that to get them back here 3 years later.
You know how easy it is to follow a baseball game on your phone?
Yep.
Like, it's so easy, and it's like I don't have to watch. I know what a home run looks like. I know what, like a strikeout looks like. Unless it's a high-stakes game, like I don't feel like I have to watch it to know what's going on.
All right, we went super long. Thanks for doing this, bud. I appreciate it. Through traffic, no, it's my fault. I get talking and I can't stop and get going here. We'll take a break. We'll talk about the Bally deal with the Twins and what could potentially happen as soon as today. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this.
Stay prepared for the days and nights ahead with the best weather team. Download the Storm Tracker app, powered by Laney's. Get alerts and updates straight from the WDAY Storm Tracker team. With accurate weather reports specific to your area. Just search WDAY in the Apple or Google Play Store. Download the Storm Tracker app and be ready to plan your day. The Storm Tracker app, powered by Laney's. Download it today.
Welcome to my house in Italy.
Want to eat like you're in Italy? Grab a fork.
Wow, is that fun?
All hour long, you're going to get eggplant parm.
Be generous with the cheese, right?
Homemade pasta.
Buon appetito.
Pizza 3 ways.
Guess what? This recipe works great in your home oven, too.
2 farm fresh sides. Even a 3-course Italian feast.
Ready for pasta? Ready for pasta.
Next, Rachel.
Weekdays at 3 on WDAY.
On the next Tamron Hall, they are the WWE stars known to fans as Carmella and Corey Graves, but now they have a new title, Mom and Dad. They talked to us about the complicated pregnancy journey that's led them to expecting their first child together. Then, they are the love stories that make us laugh, cry, and sometimes even blush. We talked to the host of the New York Times popular Modern Love podcast about the stories that shocked her the most on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way.
Because your community
is our community.
If you're driven by an adventurous heart, you're in luck.
The thoughtfully redesigned 2023 Subaru Outback shares your spirit. With standard symmetrical all-wheel drive, plus up to 32 miles per gallon. A 260 horsepower turbocharged engine, advanced technology, and an extra-large touchscreen. The 2023 Subaru Outback. Go where love takes you.
It's Outback Days, going on now at Muscatel Subaru.
Touchmark is a place where you can really be yourself. It's a complete family atmosphere from the residents to the team members to the community.
There is just such a homey feeling here.
The energy and the positivity, I think, is what's really important. You come in, you feel like you're part of a family. You're building a relationship. You're building friendships.
We feel very blessed to be here at Touchmark.
It's incredibly important to create that family atmosphere, which is what Touchmark really values.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's. The truth is, Parkinson's disease doesn't just affect the diagnosed. It affects everyone who supports and helps care for them. Worldwide, over 10 million people are living with Parkinson's, a neurological disease that affects movement. And with so many places to search for information, it can be difficult to know where to begin. The Parkinson's Foundation has answers. Answers for everyone in the fight. We can help you understand the disease, help you find expert care, give you tips for living a better life, share the latest research, help you find local support, and there's a free helpline you can call. Find your answers and join us in the fight against Parkinson's. To learn more, please go to parkinson.org or call 1-800-4PD-INFO. The Parkinson's Foundation. Better lives together.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Our thanks to Drew Trafton. We went a bit long there in this segment, but it's a topic we've been talking about for a while. I'm interested in it. I don't know how many else are out there. They might be a heck of a lot more interested if they find out today that the Twins aren't going to be on where they normally find them. Let's back up. We'll tell the story here of what happened yesterday. Bally Sports San Diego, remember there are regional outlets all over the country, will no longer televise Padres games. The team announced that yesterday. A federal bankruptcy judge will hear arguments today in a lawsuit filed by the Twins, the Guardians, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, and Major League Baseball against Diamond Sports Group, which is the owner of the regional sports networks that carry the games of 14 different Major League Baseball teams. The suit seeks to force Diamond to live up to the terms of their contracts with those teams after their networks missed their payments due on April 1. Diamond, which is owned by Sinclair, filed for bankruptcy in February, but kept airing games of the teams under contract, which included the Twins. Bally Sports North later paid 75% of the money owed, but the teams want full amount or their contracts terminated. Major League Baseball has said it is prepared to take over responsibility for broadcasting games, as it will do beginning today with the Padres. Now, for the Twins, this is a temporary deal because the contract with Bally ends in October. And the team, and Dave St. Peter, I think, told us this when we asked him when he came on in January, is said to be investigating other options. But the team is paid more than $40 million annually for its rights. So, I mean, this isn't chump change, folks. This is how some of these franchises stay afloat, is what they get from their television partner. The four teams are asking, this is from the Star Tribune story, are asking Judge Christopher Lopez, who is expected to rule either today or tomorrow, to order Diamond Sports to pay the full amount they originally agreed to or terminate the contracts and return broadcast rights to the individual teams. Should that happen, Major League Baseball would step in and televise Twins games on other cable and satellite channels and streaming services. So just to give the example of what's happening in San Diego, the Padres had a deal with Bally Sports San Diego until 2032, worth $1.2 billion. Diamond says that's a money loser, which I find laughable considering San Diego has maybe the most talented roster in the National League and is a contender for the World Series. Baseball, though, Major League Baseball reclaimed the team's broadcast rights and will be airing Padres games today using their current announcers, because they're team employees. MLB announced Tuesday night that fans in the Padres' home television market will be able to watch games on DirecTV, cable, and streaming services. It'll also offer a direct-to-consumer streaming subscription for $20 per month or $75 for the rest of the season by registering at MLB.tv. So here's the deal. If this happens, wherever you watch the Twins, if you're on Midco, if you're on Sparklight, if you're on DirecTV, if you're on Dish, the games are still going to be on, but they're not going to be on those channels. So if it's 668, I think it is, on DirecTV for Bally, it's not going to be there because that's Bally. They're going to find a different channel for it. I don't know what. I don't know if it's going to be close by, but that's how it's going to work. If you watch on Midco, same thing. Sparklight, same thing. The risk on this, and I mentioned this in our previous segment with Drew, is that for, I think, an older generation of fans, and they call the station. And when I used to anchor the news every night, I would get a phone call. Hey, where are the Twins at tonight? This is before all the different streaming options that were coming into play. What time are the Twins on? What channel are they on? And we would invariably get those. And you're going to get a heck of a lot more if this comes to pass and they're not on there anymore. Or you just lose them altogether. If you make it harder for people to find the game of the team they want to watch, they're not going to go do it. We've seen that happen time and time again. If you make it harder, nope. Thanks. I'll find other things to do. That was, like I mentioned, the one thing we learned from the COVID year of 2020 when nothing was happening was that people found other things to do, other options for leisure, go out for a walk, a bike ride, whatever, than to tie themselves down to a 2.5 hour now baseball game. And we haven't even talked about what will happen in the winter. Now, granted, the Wild and the Wolves will have a further heads up on this, that they can plan accordingly. And like I said, for the 2024 season, the Twins are going to have a whole different outlook of how they're going to be on. And this goes into a huge other conversation that we could get in down the road about the future of cable, satellite, and streaming. Because I think, specifically with sports, that's pushing the envelope there. But I think some are, the cable bundle that we used to all have is not necessarily going away as fast as people thought. I mean, there are people on the streaming train, but not as much as I think some broadcasters thought would happen. So to boil this down, because we're over here and I want to get us back on time, because Dick Bremer's coming up top of the hour, and we'll ask him about it. I'm not sure what he can say, but we'll ask him about it. That we could find out later today that Bally is no longer brought. The games are still going to be on, but they're not going to be on the channels that you're used to. That's as simple as I can say it. And if you're not willing to go find it, that's fine. I don't think you're going to be alone, but that's the reality of where they're at. Unless they decide to pay. I can't imagine they're going to do that. If they're in bankruptcy and they are telling they're not going to live up to the end of the deal, then the judge is going to have this pretty spelled out to him. If this and anything changes between now and 11 o'clock, we'll pass it along. But that's where things are at right now. We'll break and we'll get back on time. We mentioned Dick Bremer coming up. More on this story as we roll on a Wednesday morning. Back on Hot Mic after this.
I'm Tyne Morgan, host of U.S. Farm Report. Join me right here each weekend as we explore the news and issues that matter most to agriculture. We know each year farmers and ranchers are thrown challenges, but as agriculture continues to adapt, we are right there with you. From markets to weather, we take a deep dive into what matters most to agriculture and rural America.
Saturdays at 6 a.m.
Love me tender, love me sweet, never let me go. You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me dear, tell me you are mine. I'll be yours through all the years, till the end of time. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfilled. For my darling, I love you, and I always will.
Overcoming drug addiction was difficult, but I found the path to recovery that worked for me. Treatment helped me come to terms with the issues in my life that caused me to use drugs. And I found better ways to cope. Learning I had a substance use disorder helped me realize I needed to make a change. The road to recovery is different for everyone. There were good days and bad days. But I found strength in seeking help. My friends and family made a huge difference in my recovery. I never gave up. I found my path, and I keep walking it every day. Find the path that works for you. Learn more at cdc.gov/stopoverdose.
There is a road laid out for me.
Boxes everywhere. And this is going to be Addie's room.
I am blind.
You really don't like it. I hope so. Yeah.
I know this road is there for me. There is a long way.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Waist down by the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
I got this.
I know it's
okay.
If I'm really free, take me down to the river and wash me. Oh.
All right. We got much more on the Twins coming up here. And just for everybody on May 31, later today, ESPN will announce the full bowl schedule for 2023. That doesn't sound like football season. I don't know what does. Can't wait for that. We'll take a break. We come back. Dick Bremer will join us live from Houston as the Twins wrap up their series with the Astros. We'll dive into that and a whole lot more when we come back on Hot Mic right after this.
On the next Tamron Hall, they are the WWE stars known to fans as Carmella and Corey Graves, but now they have a new title, Mom and Dad. They talked to us about the complicated pregnancy journey that's led them to expecting their first child together. Then, they are the love stories that make us laugh, cry, and sometimes even blush. We talked to the host of the New York Times popular Modern Love podcast about the stories that shocked her the most on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way.
Because your community
is our community.
I'll bet joining Medicare probably isn't on your bucket list. Riding in a balloon, traveling the world, learning the tango, something more like that, right? But now that you need to choose a Medicare plan, even though it might not be exciting, it sure is important. That's why I chose Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota. Blue Cross is nonprofit, so instead of making shareholders wealthy, they focus on making you and me healthy. You should call or go online to get this free step-by-step guide to Medicare. It can help you understand your Medicare benefits and how Blue Cross gives you more value for your money. 96% of doctors and hospitals in Minnesota are in the Blue Cross network. So just about anywhere you go, you're covered. And just like me, almost half of Minnesota seniors have a Blue Cross Medicare plan. Maybe you're interested in a plan that combines medical and prescription coverage. Well, here's how Blue Cross has you covered there as well.
Blue Cross offers Medicare Advantage plans that include prescription drug coverage, $0 primary care doctor visits, and many other benefits. Some plans start at a $0 monthly plan premium. Plus, select plans include $0 copays on insulin and preferred generic medications. Blue Cross Medicare Advantage plans also provide extra perks at no extra cost. From dental, hearing, and vision benefits to Silver Sneakers fitness memberships and even benefits for over-the-counter medications. To learn more about why Blue Cross is the best choice, call or go online now for your free copy of this informative step-by-step guide to Medicare. There's absolutely no obligation.
Blue Cross has been offering Medicare plans since 1965, when Medicare first started. They're all about keeping folks like you and me healthy, so we can keep doing things we like, or tackle things from our bucket list.
Call or go online now. You and Blue, better together.
Send your weather-related photos or video to the WDAY Storm Tracker team. Contact weather@WDAY.com or share them with us on Facebook and Instagram. Keeping an eye on the sky. The WDAY Storm Tracker team.
You got lots of money over here.
I want to go for it. So do I. Let's do it.
You bet your life.
Give me the money. More money. $5,000.
Boosting the economy.
You seriously asking me this question, Jay? Coney Island. What are we doing over here?
Every weekday.
Kev, give me that money. Oh, yeah. I'm going to give it to you like an Italian uncle. Here you go. You get yourself a little something there. There you go, right there.
Weekdays at 3:30 p.m.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
This is Hot Mike.
Hot Mike.
On the networks of WDAY.
WDAY.
Here's Don Izzo.
A drive to left field. He has done it again. And a leaping catch on the warning track. Got it. And the Twins complete the sweep.
And it is Wednesday at 10 o'clock. Dick Bremer joins us live on location in Houston as the Twins get set to wrap up their series with the Astros later tonight. Then a late flight and back home tomorrow to open up a series back at Target Field. We were just visiting before you came on with the Bally Sports San Diego mess, knowing full well that it obviously involves Bally Sports North. I know there's probably only so much either you can tell or know, but what can you tell us about what you know of what's going on here with the broadcasts?
Well, I know that the San Diego Padres have struck out on their own. I shouldn't say that. That's not accurate. Through the rights to the Padres game are now controlled by Major League Baseball. And starting tonight, last night was their last night on Bally Sports West, and starting tonight, the games will still be available to Padres fans, just on different channels. If, for instance, DirecTV, if they were on 617, now they'll be on 647. Those aren't the numbers. I'm just throwing numbers out there. Yep. And so they're the first team to divorce themselves, I guess, from Sinclair Broadcasting Diamond Sports Group. And there is a trial or hearing, bankruptcy hearing, I should say, that ironically is being held here in Houston regarding the fate of some other teams, including the Minnesota Twins, the bankruptcy hearing. I don't know how long that's going to last. I don't know when the judge is going to rule on it, but I'm a lot like the fans, Dom. There's a lot more that I don't know than I know. So we're going to have to wait and see how the dust settles here.
You and I talked about this before the start of the season. Is this been if fans asked you about this, have you got a question about this, or is this now reinvigorated that with this decision that came out of San Diego?
I think that I share in the fans' confusion. I don't know that fans really comprehend the magnitude of this. And the possible outcomes of it. I think they'll want to know, depending on how this all, sorts out, they'll want to know where to find the games. And the only thing I know for sure is that the games will be out there, and I suspect in some cases might be available for people who didn't have the access to the Twins telecast before. So ultimately and eventually it'll all get smoothed out, but this is a pretty uneasy time for those of us who want to follow this baseball team and want to be able to follow them on television.
And that's the problem, is that when you make it harder for people to find the game, sometimes they won't come find you. That's the rub on this.
Yeah, and again, the provisions have been made in San Diego for that transition, which will start tonight, to be as seamless as anybody can make it seamless. You'll just have to go to a different channel on DirecTV, cable providers, what have you. The streaming is going to be out there, and that's going to be a great relief for a lot of fans who were blacked out and unable to watch the Twins on television because they lived in the domain of another sports regional and simply could not watch their favorite team, whether it's Twins or whatever. So in that sense, that, I think, from what I understand, that will be immediately resolved in San Diego starting tonight. There'll be streaming services out there, a variety of different options for people to watch their team.
The blackout, we're getting down the rabbit hole here, but the Major League Baseball blackout policy is just the most outdated. Well, they can just blow that one up and never have it come back again. That one in 2023 makes no sense to me. Just get rid of it.
Right. Well, in the case in point, if you lived in, say, Kansas City and you wanted to watch the Houston game, you couldn't watch them because you're in the Kansas City domain,
right?
And so that will go away eventually, and maybe sooner rather than later, and that will be a relief for some folks.
Let's actually talk about the team on the field. After Monday's explosion of hits and runs, then revert back to what we have seen. 1 run, 6 hits last night. Joe Ryan got tagged for his worst performance of the season. It just, after the momentum of Monday, you're hoping to carry that over, and it just like a freight train, Dick, it all ended pretty abruptly last night.
Right, and that's been the issue throughout pretty much this month of May. This team looked really good in April, and I think the presumption was that things were going to be even better in May, but the Twins haven't sustained anything in the month of May. Back-to-back wins have been hard to come by. They have 2 series wins in the month, 6 series losses, and there hasn't been a long streak in either direction. No long winning streak, no long losing streak, but they have, all the 3-game series that they've had have gone 2-1 or 1-2. It's just been kind of a malaise, I guess.
Yep.
The team has been a disappointment in May, and we'll see what happens tonight. And then, a big series coming up this weekend at Field against the Guardians. Maybe what this team needs, it doesn't seem to make any logical sense, but maybe what this team needs is somebody else in the division to get hot and get the Twins going. You know, I mean, they've been sitting there and they've had a 3-game lead, a 4-game lead, a 3-game lead, now a 2-game lead. If they lose tonight, they're going to be a 500 ball club, and there are going to be a lot of pretty good baseball teams that are going to be right there with them. You know, the Mets and some other teams that are frankly been disappointed.
Yes.
I think, to be perfectly frank, you could say that the Twins have been a disappointment so far this year, because I think there's an awful lot of talent on this team that we haven't seen.
Well, we had the graphic up on Monday's show or yesterday's show. When you look at the entire division, everybody's ahead of them outside of Kansas City, Detroit, or Kansas City and Oakland. Like, that's where the entire division is. That's not not something to brag about where you're ranking right now in the American League. That's not good.
No, I think we talked about this last week. In Major League Baseball now, there are just a handful of really, really good teams. Baltimore, Tampa Bay, so on and so forth. And there's a couple really bad teams, Oakland, Kansas City. But then there's, you know, just about everybody else is within a week of the 500 mark one way or the other. And
I think we're losing his Zoom signal here in Houston. It's in a bad spot here. Hopefully we'll get him back. But, oh, sorry, there you go. You may have to move there, Dick. You're in a tough spot right now for your connection there. Just as he was visiting about that, and we've brought up the graphic several times throughout the early part of the season, is that there you go. I think you're in a tough spot.
It was a really tough day for the Tigers.
You may have to move.
They lost.
You may have to move your signal there, bud, because we're in a bad spot right now. We'll do that in a second here. Just looking at where things are at in the AL Central, and he's right on the money on this, where you look at how things haven't changed. Like, we bring up the standings each and every day. Okay, they're up by 2. It's 2.5. Up by 3. I mean, it hasn't really changed this entire season because, frankly, the Twins haven't really been pushed. And now, as Dick mentioned, the Guardians are coming in here for a big 4-game set beginning tomorrow night at Target Field, and you're interested to see how this is going to play out because, frankly, with where things are at right now, you know, I mean, it's win 1, lose 2, maybe win 2, lose 1. That's kind of where things have been so far with the Twins. Oh, we got it back. There you go. Sorry, bud. Your signal was dropping out there for a second. We were just talking about, though, how inconsistent the division has been, and the Twins have reflected of that so far this season, where they've played down to the competition so far that nobody's been able to really jump ahead.
You know, up until pitching has remained, you know, really good for them, and so you can write that one off. We'll see if Louis Varland can, you know, pitch a good ball game tonight against a really good pitcher, young pitcher, rookie who took it to the Twins at Target Field back in April. So, you know, at some point, this team, I think, is going to start scoring runs more consistently. You look at this lineup. Correa, Buxton, Kepler looks lost right now. You can't consistently score runs unless your good players, your better players produce, and right now they're not.
The arrival of Royce Lewis, could that have been a bigger opening than you can't ask for a better. You wrote about it, or you talked about it during the broadcast. I mean, literally a year to the day when he crashes into the wall and you have this thud of a moment. He comes up, hits an opposite field 3-run home run, then delivers a big hit in the 9th inning to tie the game. I mean, you can't dream of debuts like that, especially after the injury.
We had to remind our viewers that he hasn't played 50 games in the Twins organization yet. And yet we're pinning our hopes on this, 23-year-old kid who's endured so much, over the last, since he was drafted. He's had to deal with the pandemic when there was no minor league baseball. And then he's missed essentially 2 years with 2 major knee surgeries. It's remarkable how positive he is. And I almost related the story last night when we were talking about Royce and the positive vibe he gives everybody. After the knee injury last year, I just felt terrible for him because he's such an encouraging, uplifting guy. And I went down to the clubhouse and he was on crutches. And I wanted to do whatever I could to, encourage him, lift his spirits. And I left that conversation, and he lifted my spirits up. That's how unique a personality this guy has. And if he can inject a little positivity, enthusiasm, energy into that clubhouse, maybe that's what they need even more than the 3-run home runs and clutch ninth inning hits.
I know it was a huge hit, but it seemed like the dugout came alive when he did that. Did it seem that way to you when you're up in the booth seeing that? It seemed like that was a reaction we hadn't seen before.
Right, and okay, he got the big hit, and I told him yesterday. I said that single meant so much more to me than the 3-run homer, even though it only produced 1 run. Ninth inning, 2 outs, 2 strikes, and he did what he could with that pitch. Yep. It was a good breaking ball off the plate outside. He didn't try to pull it. He just wanted to hit it hard someplace, to center field or right field. It ended up going to center field. And that's what's missing in this lineup. And he's the least experienced guy in the lineup, and he's the guy that produced the big hit. So, we'll wait and see. We're not going to make any comps, but to anybody else that stepped into a Twins clubhouse and changed the complexion or personality of the clubhouse. But he has that potential, and I suspect we'll he got maybe arguably the biggest hit last night, too, the leadoff double that led to the only run. Right. So we'll see what happens tonight.
How's his defense been from what you've seen in the field at third base?
Well, we haven't seen much of him at third base. We've seen a couple of short throws that have been scooped up at first base, and that's okay. And the last throw yesterday was right there. He's a really, really athletic player. I don't think he's going to have any problems adapting. And I asked him before the game Monday about the transition from shortstop to third base, and he reminded me something that I had forgotten. In high school, he played varsity baseball for 4 years, and the first 3 years he was a third baseman, only converted to shortstop his senior year in high school. And so he knows his way around the third base bag, and I don't expect we're going to I think he'll be an upgrade, put it this way, from what we've seen at third base defensively.
He's just an athletic specimen. That's all I know you and I have been seeing, like we've been talking about him for the better part of 2.5 years, because we have, but now you see him out there, even with the 2 injuries, he's different. He's built like Byron Buxton is a different athletic specimen. I think Royce Lewis is in that same vein, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would say so. I think we've already seen evidence that he's a 5-tool player. We've seen him run the bases really well. He's got power, obviously, when you can, pop one down the right field line for a home run. You've got some strength there. So we've got to be fair to let him, develop and struggle at this level too, because that's going to be ahead of him. But boy, he sure is an intriguing player, and coming to the roster at a time when things have been just kind of lethargic for weeks. We'll see if it's infectious enough, and maybe his skills can rub off on some of the other players, and certainly the attitude and personality as well.
We're going to take a break after this question, but in your own gut on this, just gut feeling, how often does he play? Does Rocco let him run for a little bit here, or give him some scheduled days off? What's your gut instinct on that for how often he's going to be out there playing?
Yeah, I know we're all very aware of how cautious the front office is with players, particularly those coming back from injury. And Rocco said as much. He's not going to play 17 games in 17 days, and nor should he, right? There are other options there, including Kyle Farmer at third base and Willie Castro and all that. But, I think he's in position. He might not even be in the lineup tonight for all I know, but I think he's in position to play 5-6 games a week with an occasional day off. At least that's the hope, because, it's unfair to him, but there are a lot of people, not just the fans, but there's a lot of people in the organization who are pinning a lot of hopes on him.
Let's take a break. Much more with Dick Bremer live from Houston as the Twins get set to wrap up their series of the Astros, and a big showdown with the Guardians looming when they get home. Hot Mike continues after this on a Hump Day Wednesday. We're back after this.
Welcome to my house in Italy.
Want to eat like you're in Italy? Grab a fork.
Wow, is that fun?
All hour long, you're going to get eggplant parm,
Be generous with the cheese, right?
homemade pasta,
Buon appetito.
pizza 3 ways,
Guess what? This recipe works great in your home oven, too.
2 farm-fresh sides, even a 3-course Italian feast.
Ready for pasta? Ready for pasta.
Next, Rachel.
Weekdays at 3 on WDAY.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
For clear information and facts,
is more important today than at any other time.
that's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
To gather new information
And be ready to bring it to you.
tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather.
to get you on your way.
Because your community
Is our community.
Come on, babe, let's go outside and take the boat out for a ride. I'm ready, I don't want to wait. Get on board. Got the sunshine and the short line. It's the good life. Get on board, get on board. Get on board.
My son had a full-blown asthma attack. It came out of nowhere.
The unsettling thing about some symptoms is you don't always know what's causing them.
He had a reaction triggered by cockroach allergens.
Threats to your health can come from unexpected places. Get the facts. Visit pestworld.org.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments. Start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
The end of hunger and poverty starts here. Your gift of an animal from Heifer International can help a family with food and income, all while caring for the earth. Heifer International. Learn more at heifer.org.
What would you give for a child you loved to make their wish come true? To help them fight a critical illness? Just imagine what you'd do. You see, wishes are so powerful, and you can make them real. They can give a child back their childhood, even change the way they feel. Every single one of us can make the stars align, because when we come together, hope and joy will shine.
I'm Naheem Hines, running back for the Indianapolis Colts and proud supporter of the Muscular Dystrophy Association. My mom was diagnosed with muscular dystrophy when I was 14, and I watched her struggle. But MDA helped her get the best treatments and care, and they also help kids like my buddy Ethan.
My name is Ethan, and I'm 12 years old. Thanks to the Muscular Dystrophy Association and people like you, I have more hope than ever before. From day one, they've treated me like family at my local care center. MDA is the only one that funds over 150 care centers across the U.S. to help provide state-of-the-art care for adults and kids like me.
For over 70 years, MDA has been transforming the lives of people living with muscular dystrophy, ALS, and other related neuromuscular diseases. They fund the research for breakthrough treatments, care, and cures. And MDA provides support to thousands of families like mine and Ethan's in communities like yours. Thanks to MDA, kids and adults can live life to its fullest. Join us and learn more at mda.org today.
Welcome back, everybody. Look at tonight's pitching matchup. Louis Varland going for the Twins. Hunter Brown will pitch for the Astros. If you've not watched him pitch, this is why they let Justin Verlander go. He's 5-1, a mark of 3.12. Back with Dick Bremer, who joins us live from Houston. I mentioned this yesterday on the show. It's why they let Carlos Correa go, because they had Jeremy Pena. They could let George Springer go. They could let Verlander go. This franchise, which I know is maligned, and rightfully so, they brought all the criticism on them with the cheating scandal. But it shouldn't take away, Dick, from how they have drafted well. They have created an incredible farm system that they could bring those guys up and let those Hall of Famers go and not miss a beat.
on the pitching side, they're much like the Cleveland Guardians, right?
Yeah.
They had to let Corey Kluber go and Clevenger and Trevor Bauer. They had some top flight pitchers, but within the system, they have built or rebuilt pitching staffs, both in Cleveland and here, that are still really, really good. The one thing, though, that they're concerned about here, inexplicably, they fired their general manager, or they could not come to contract terms with their general manager after he made all the right moves to get them a World Series championship. And they did not have someone in the bulk of the off season to bolster the pitching staff. There was nobody in charge to, provide some backups in the event that you lose a couple of starting pitchers to injury, which is exactly what's happened. And so they're concerned here. The young man pitched awfully well last night, but they don't think that he'll be a Garrett Cole type of guy for them. And they're in a much more competitive division. And I know Dusty Baker's already expressed, it would have been nice to have had a general manager to, acquire some reinforcements in case of injury, because now they're dealing with what everybody else is dealing with, a shortage of pitching because of injury.
Twins are getting set, we mentioned, with Cleveland coming in here. Again, now we're into June. So is it too early to say this is a big series, or is it we're right about time? This is a big series starting tomorrow night.
Well, I think every series against the team you perceive to be your main competitor is a key series, simply because there are fewer games with those teams now, right? So you're taking the importance of 19 games and condensing it into 13. Twins went to Cleveland, won 1 of 3, and that road trip, to me, where they had a chance not to bury the White Sox or the Guardians, but they had a chance to assert themselves as the team to beat in the division. They lost the series in Chicago. They lost the series in Cleveland. They are well aware of what happened against the Guardians last year when, the Guardians just kept beating the Twins to death late in games, so many heartbreaking losses, and eventually they passed the Twins and won the division easily. So, no, I believe this is a really big series, particularly for a team that has had such a disappointing month of May.
How close do you think they are to getting a Thielbar or Maeda back? I know they're both in rehab stints. Is this something, from what you're hearing, is soon or not so much?
Caleb, I think he pitched last night an inning. I think he'll have one more game Thursday, and then I would expect he'd be joining the team this weekend, provided he feels well today after he pitched last night. Maeda, I think, a little bit farther down the road, and then I would imagine the Twins will, at least for a while, have a 6-man starting rotation to try to preserve the one asset that they have shown that they have, and that is really good starting pitching. And the last thing you want is to have Ryan get a little fatigued. If that was the issue last night, I don't know. But you don't want, one sour start after another, because the way this team is hitting, that could send this team below 500 for good.
I feel remiss. We're 20 minutes into this conversation. I haven't brought up Alex Kirillov's name yet. And he was, I thought, great on Monday, was on base 5 times. He was on base 3 more times last night. How impressive has he been so far since coming up?
Well, you look at the numbers, the production, you look at the walks, and then you realize a lot of his strikeouts have been because the umpire hasn't been as good as the batter in the box, right? He seems to have a lot of strikes called against him when I think he's got a really good idea about the strike zone. I think what we're seeing is what the Twins believed was there for the last few years if he could have stayed healthy. As far as we know, the wrist has given him no issues whatsoever. He's picking up hits. He's drawing walks. He's had a great series here, even though I don't think has even driven in a run yet. But, he just looks like the type of hitter you want in the middle of your lineup. Personally, I wish they would leave him in the lineup against left-handed pitching, because I think eventually he's going to give the Twins a really good at bat against lefties as well as righties.
How tough a deal is it? Granted, I know you got to make room for guys. For Matt Wallner to get sent down, that he was playing all right, and then he goes and tears the cover off the ball last night for the Saints. That, I mean, he didn't deserve anything to be sent down, but that you got to make room.
Right. In this case, you had to make room for Max Kepler, who was ready to come off the injured list, and Max has not looked good at the plate at all in 2 games. Wallner was sent to the minor leagues, having reached in 8 straight plate appearances. I think it's 6 hits and 2 walks, something like that.
Tough.
And if there's a part of Matt Wallner that says, well, what do I got to do to stay here? I'm not sure anyone would have a ready answer other than the fact that we're paying Kepler a lot of money to play, and he's ready to play, so he's got to be in the lineup. And we need you, Matt Wallner, to be playing every day someplace, because we do believe you're a part of the future.
I know you got a long day ahead of you. Thanks so much for getting up early and joining us this morning. Have a great call tonight, and safe travels back home, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
Yeah, next week we'll be in St. Petersburg, so we'll be on the road again.
Thanks, Dick. Appreciate it.
You got it.
There he goes, Dick Bremer, live from Houston this morning as the Twins get set to wrap up their series with the Astros, 7 o'clock first pitch, and then back home, as he was mentioning to me off air, the Twins will then play 2 of their games with the Guardians. We're talking about the whole Bally thing. Won't be on Bally. Friday night is another Apple game, and then Saturday night, Fox picked up the game. So if you're scrambling and can't find them, and we'll talk about on the show on Friday, that's why. But again, and I'll hammer this till I'm blue in the face. I mean, we're in a real interesting spot for sports television right now. Take the NFL aside of this, because they're their own universe. They really are. And college football is pretty close to it, considering I'm getting game announcements on for this fall and how big they are. After that, the pecking order goes the NBA, baseball, hockey. And you have to have your games available to be found, right? That's probably what you're going to hear over the next 2 weeks about the Stanley Cup Final. Well, we can't. It's on cable. Who's going to watch it? You know, if it's on network television like the NBA is, well, then that's easier to find. But there's fewer baseball games that are on network TV. I think there's one a week now, whatever Fox decides to do it on a Saturday. But if, again, and I got another email in today, if you're going to make it harder for me to find it, I'm not going to go look. It's as simple as Joe Smith sitting down and knowing, all right, I'm going to put on channel 26, and bam, I know the Twins are going to be on at 7 o'clock. So if I put on channel 26 and it's not there, well, then what am I doing? Like, wait a minute, where's the game? Well, maybe it's not on tonight. Oh, yeah, they played. It just was on a different channel. Oh, why is that? Well, you know what I mean? Like that, you're going down that road. And if you do that, there may be some, and I'm telling you, the fans that have not had, like I've had buddies of mine who have Hulu that haven't seen a Twins game in 3 years because they haven't been a deal with Bally and either Hulu or YouTube. Right? They've been fine. They've went out and lived their lives. I'll follow the game on my phone. And you can't watch the games, by the way, on the MLB app because they're blacked out. Just like this terrible circle of badness. Fix it. Let's take a break. We come back. You'll meet one of the fastest guys in North Dakota history. Jacob Rodin will join us from North Dakota State. He's heading to the NCAA Track Championships 1 week from today. He'll be on the track at the University of Texas. We'll do that when Hot Mike returns right after this.
Get 11% off everything now at Menards and upgrade your home's appliances. We have the largest in-stock appliance selection ready to take home today. Save over $350 on this fingerprint-resistant stainless steel dishwasher after sale price and rebate. Keep your home clean and spotless with Live-In. We've got brooms, mops, and everything in between. Get this mop today for just $9.99 after 11% rebate now at Menards.
Save big money at Menards.
Who let the dogs out? Laney's has, and the 2-for-deal special is back. If your furnace and air conditioner are over 10 years old, it's possible they've gone to the dogs. They're more prone to roll over and break down, and they're also a lot less efficient. Let Laney's help you fetch a free air conditioner with their 2-for-deal. For a limited time, when you purchase a qualifying Coleman high-efficiency furnace, you will receive a Coleman air conditioning unit free. Call Laney's for details. The dog days of summer will be here before you know it.
828 is just great.
Shields on her new docuseries, Pretty Baby Brooke Shields.
Now it's like I'm allowed to be a human being.
Plus, Jimmy Chin from Wildlife.
These were the original dirtbag climbers and surfers and skiers.
If you jumped out of an airplane with your partner, your tandem guy who's in charge of your life, would you remember his name?
It would be Tom Cruise. That's the only way I would jump out.
Weekdays at 9 a.m.
I'll bet joining Medicare probably isn't on your bucket list. Riding in a balloon, traveling the world, learning the tango, something more like that, right? But now that you need to choose a Medicare plan, even though it might not be exciting, it sure is important. That's why I chose Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Minnesota. Blue Cross is nonprofit, so instead of making shareholders wealthy, they focus on making you and me healthy. You should call or go online to get this free step-by-step guide to Medicare. It can help you understand your Medicare benefits and how Blue Cross gives you more value for your money. 96% of doctors and hospitals in Minnesota are in the Blue Cross network. So just about anywhere you go, you're covered. And just like me, almost half of Minnesota seniors have a Blue Cross Medicare plan. Maybe you're interested in a plan that combines medical and prescription coverage. Well, here's how Blue Cross has you covered there as well.
Blue Cross offers Medicare Advantage plans that include prescription drug coverage, $0 primary care doctor visits, and many other benefits. Some plans start at a $0 monthly plan premium. Plus, select plans include $0 copays on insulin and preferred generic medications. Blue Cross Medicare Advantage plans also provide extra perks at no extra cost. From dental, hearing, and vision benefits to Silver Sneakers fitness memberships and even benefits for over-the-counter medications. To learn more about why Blue Cross is the best choice, call or go online now for your free copy of this informative step-by-step guide to Medicare. There's absolutely no obligation.
Blue Cross has been offering Medicare plans since 1965, when Medicare first started. They're all about keeping folks like you and me healthy, so we can keep doing things we like, or tackle things from our bucket list.
Call or go online now. You and Blue, better together.
I've been doing this for a long time. Somebody has to stand up for victims.
Detective Stabler, my partner, Detective Benson.
The world is changing. It took a lot of courage to get up on that stand. There's no stigma in coming forward. Please help me stop him.
He's not gonna ever be able to hurt you again. I promise you, I'll protect you. I'm not gonna stop until we find this guy.
Weekdays at 12 p.m.
Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mike continues on a busy Wednesday morning. Week from today, the NCAA track championships will get underway at the University of Texas down in Austin. Changing up spots. Usually they go to Eugene. This time heading to Texas. North Dakota State will again be well represented at the NCAA track championships, including North Dakota's own Jacob Rodin from Kenmare, North Dakota, who last Friday night in Sacramento set some school history, becoming the first NDSU man to qualify for an individual race in the Division I era. He qualified in the 800 meters, and he'll represent the Bison at the NCAA championships in Austin. A week from today, he'll be back on the track. Before that, he joins us here on Hot Mike on this Wednesday. It's great to see you, bud. Congratulations. This race, we were just visiting off air. The 800 is always like the go-between race. But after you caught your breath and you finished third, when did it sink in like, oh my, I'm going to be representing at the NCAAs now?
Yeah, thank you. Pleasure to be on. But I mean, it definitely hit right away, but I'm a pretty slow person to recover. Like, people that know me know that it takes like a solid 30 minutes before I come back to my senses. Like, I was throwing up and stuff too, so it was tough to get I mean, it felt good, but yeah, it takes a solid 30 minutes for me to recover, and after that, it felt really good.
Okay, so I don't want to bring this up because we interviewed you right after the 800 at the Summit League Track Championships, and you had I felt terrible that you won it, but we stuck a mic right in your face. Like, were you going to pass out then?
Oh, I was very close. That's for sure. I remember asking for a few minutes and then getting a question right away. It was funny though. I went back and listened to the interview, and I've watched it several times and laughed every single time because I just didn't have any air in me. It was kind of funny.
Hey, you did great, man. You know what? You're more worried about winning. That's all that matters, right? You can do the interview, whatever, afterwards. Now it's for real. Now, a week from today, you're going to be on the track. And I mentioned introducing you, first an individual man for an NDSU in the D1 era. You were part of the 4x4 team last year. That made history. Now this. How big a deal is this for you?
Yeah, it's definitely really exciting, getting the opportunity to go there and just see all these world-class athletes last year in the relay, and it is kind of an eye-opener for me. And it definitely, it was a goal to get back in the relay and the Open 8 for me going into my final season. And yeah, just to be able to do it it's awesome.
Jacob, being a North Dakota guy from Western North Dakota, how much more special is this to you to do that, to represent your state now at the NCAAs as well?
Yeah, it's really special to get to represent A, Northwest North Dakota, and B, to be able to do it in a college program that resides in the state too. Like, I don't know, I just like North Dakota in general, and to be able to represent him is a pretty cool opportunity.
Now, I hate giving this guy any credit on the show, but Randy Hedberg actually deserves a little bit of credit for getting you to run track at NDSU. Can you tell us the story about how this all came about?
Yeah, for sure. Basically, after the state track meet, I didn't have too many aspirations of competing in collegiate track, but he reached out to Don Larson, our previous head coach, and who reached out to me and asked for a home visit. And yeah, it kind of all went down from there. I do need to give a little credit to Cam Rail and Ryan Enerson, because I did meet them at the state track meet, and they were present NDSU athletes there who came up to me afterwards and were like, dude, you got to come to NDSU. And that also really kind of opened my eyes to just such great guys that were, I don't know, just treated me really well and didn't really need to, you know? So that made me grow fonder of NDSU as well.
So was Division I track was it even on the radar for you at that point? Or was it that when that conversation happened, said, okay, maybe I can go do this?
It was somewhat on the radar, I guess I would say, but I didn't consider it with any seriousness, I guess you could say, until Don Larson reached out. So
now here you sit a few years later, and this has happened. Is it hard to wrap your mind around it, from that conversation in Bismarck to where we're sitting now?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I never expected it would have come to this, but it's I don't know. It's just been a blessing, that's for sure.
Well, it's funny because, we had Jake Levine on a couple weeks ago after he was the Summit League track championship MVP, and he never finished higher than 5th in high school. And then to go do this in college, and then what you're doing, it's remarkable to me to have, normally you see where guy or woman will be really good, excel in high school, and then even be better in college. That hasn't been the case for you, which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Jake Levine too, one of my great friends, to be able to, I don't know, just see his journey through starting out as a multi, not really finding his niche and just kind of bouncing between different groups, and then finally coming to our sprint group and just really excelling. I don't know, it almost gives me chills because I know the hard work he's put in, and yeah, just really happy to see him excel in his final year. Glad he came back for one more because he was contemplating it too. So, yeah, it's been a joy.
Yeah, I had Stevie Keller last year. We had him on actually before the Summit League track championships this year, Jacob. But I wanted to ask about the relay last year, how big a deal that was. I know I talked to you before you guys left for Eugene, but then to go out there and you're racing, these are the fastest teams in the country. And you're out there, and then North Dakota State gets introduced. Did it live up to what you thought? I know you guys didn't run as fast as you hoped, but did it live up to what you thought it could be, especially in Eugene, in Oregon?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely an awesome feel. I think we've talked about that before, but walking into that facility, it's got to be the best in the world, because it's just crazy all the things they've put into it. And I don't know, to do that on the national stage and line up across from literally people that are probably going to the Olympics. So it was just an awesome opportunity. So
what was the reaction afterwards? Just visiting with the guys. What did you guys say anything, or what was among the four of you? What happened after the race?
Yeah, I mean, first off, is just like it would have been Cody Roeder's last race, so it's just props to I gave props to him and thanks for training with me for the boys for the last several years. And I mean, after that, it was just more conversation of just wow, this is we didn't know that we were going to even make it to regionals heading into the conference meet, let alone nationals. So it was just an absolute ride. And we just, I don't know, it's just jaw dropping for us the whole time. And really fun to be able to watch all the other races too.
So now to be back again, do you feel like the jaw-dropping spot, all that will be gone? Okay, I'm here on business next week?
I don't know. I definitely have my goals and aspirations for the race and stuff, but it's a big stage, and I'm just really excited to be able to try to go out there and do my best. So, I mean, it's definitely awe-inspiring for me no matter what. It's pretty cool.
So I've called a bunch of Class B basketball tournaments. Ken Mayer has made it routinely, especially on the girls' side, a couple times on the boys. Who is your guys' rival? When I ask you that, in high school, who is your number one rival you guys got up for?
That's a good question, because for basketball, we moved regions.
Yeah.
That would have been, I don't know, probably when I was in junior high or even before that. But so in the new region, it would probably be a Stanley or a Powers Lake.
Okay.
And then in the old region, it would have been a Bishop Ryan or RE Deemers too. So, and yeah, we still get to play Bishop Ryan. So that's kind of bouncing back to the old region. And then the definitely new rivalries with Stanley and Powers Lake too are fun to watch.
Have you heard from back home about 3-class basketball? Has that trickled back to you here in town?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, people are excited for it. Some people are I'm sure you know as well too. There's people on both sides of the coin. But I mean, I think it's a great opportunity to show your talents no matter what class you're sitting in. So
I know I asked you about this last year, but when you've gone home, or even now when you go back home after this experience, what has it been like? What is the experience of going back home now, of having the success you've had at the Division I level?
I don't know. I kind of like it. People still just, I don't know, it's just going back home, I guess. I mean, people congratulate me and stuff, which is cool, but I don't know. I just like to, I don't know.
It's still home, right?
Yeah. I just consider home. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
All right. I have to ask you this, because we were visiting off air, and I've been told this, but you actually do it. The 800 meters, it's not obviously a sprint, because you can't just blaze it, but it's not like the 1500 where it's an endurance race. So how do you actually prep for a race like this, where you got to bide your time and then basically bust it at the end? How do you even prep for a race like this?
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of training for one, which any race does, but it's kind of ideally you split it up into 2 400s, or at least that's kind of how I look at it.
Okay.
And your ideal splits between each 400, you'll probably be plus 2 or 3 seconds. So my goal would be to go out in a 51, 52, and then come back in a 54, 55, so but I mean, going back to what you said about being a sprint and also a long distance race, it's definitely a mix of both. It's not a jog, but you're also not sprinting the whole time. But I don't know. It's a cool race.
Hey, before I let you go, do you have a time in mind that you need to run next week to get to the finals? Is there okay, I have to hit here. If I do, I got a heck of a chance to qualify for the final.
I guess I'm not going into it with that mentality because I would have thought, like, I don't know, you just got to get top 2 and then next 3 fastest times advance. But, like, I don't know. It's weird because races can go out really slow or they can go out really fast. But I guess my goal is just to, run faster than my PR and then whatever comes. Like, there's a lot of things that can go on in a race that just there's a lot of variables, and to expect to run a certain time it's tough. And then you can even run that specific time and not make finals too. So, like, I don't know. I'm just going to go out there and try my best. So
it's great to visit with you again, bud. Thanks so much for the time. Congratulations on another great season, and good luck next Wednesday in Texas, okay?
Yep, appreciate it.
Good to see you, bud. There he goes. Jacob Rodin, Kenmare, North Dakota State 800-meter champion. He'll be running next Wednesday at the NCAA Championships. Again, that's broken up each day. The men go on Wednesday, the women go Thursday, the men Friday, and then the women on Saturday to wrap it up. It's one of the cool events. I always love paying attention to it, of the NCAA Track Championships, and obviously the Bison Bell well represented. UND is going to be sending a couple of people as well, and we'll keep an eye on this beginning next Wednesday down in Austin. We will take our final break. We come back. Our big boss has got some college football news he's going to want to get ready for. His beloved Huskers have a couple games scheduled, and they're not for Saturdays. We'll do that when Hot Mike Wraps right after this.
This is a murder mystery of epic proportions. You get this picture of a jealous guy, thinks she's got a lover, and bang, she's dead.
What possessed you to do that?
Could this be a murder for hire?
When you've got something that was this bad,
somebody's got to pay.
Dateline.
Weekdays at 1 p.m.
In this job, you take your eye off it for 1 second. People can die.
Go now! Don't think. Just do it.
We're gonna get her out.
Here we go.
Hey, slow breath.
I'm a firefighter, and I will always be a firefighter. Did a great thing today.
It's all because of you.
Weekdays at 7 p.m. and 12:05 a.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way,
because your community
is our community.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. He asked all his therapists to help him undertake some of the house chores. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey.
Today, 1 in 5 working-age Americans has a mental health condition.
People in all types of jobs and at all levels.
And the key to helping us succeed is a supportive and inclusive workplace.
All of us have a role to play in making that happen.
So what can I do to help?
As a CEO, I can set the tone for supportive culture.
As a manager, I can offer assistance and accommodations.
As a coworker, I can listen and be a source of support to my colleagues.
As someone with a mental health condition, I can ask for what I need to perform my best.
I can offer all employees the supports they need to deliver on the job. For the team
and for the business.
What can I do? What can I do?
What can I do?
I can remind others
that we all benefit from workplaces that promote good mental health.
mental health-friendly workplaces are more important than ever.
And all of us have a role to play in promoting them.
Learn more at whatcanyoudocampaign.org.
911, what is your emergency?
Every day we encounter people who are having the worst day of their entire lives.
Does it get any easier?
Nope.
It takes a certain kind of person to run towards danger rather than run away from it.
Why is this job so important to you?
Growing up, I never saw any heroes who looked like me.
And that's what a hero looks like.
Help is on the way.
Sundays at 8 p.m.
The guys are throwing a graphic at me on Ben Joyce. How many people out of 10 could pick out Ben Joyce out of a lineup? The answer is 0. So he throws hard is what we're seeing there. I appreciate Kyle's attention to that, the former pitcher that he is, but nobody knows who Ben Joyce is. I'm sorry. It's a fact. He throws the ball hard. That's great. It's a cool graphic, though. I don't know if our boss is watching, listening. Get his attention here if he is running around the office, because we're getting some college football scheduling coming in. And it involves the Big Ten. They're going to release some schedules, and they've already had some nuggets come through this morning involving Nebraska. And this is hilarious to me because when they did this, the Big Ten said, we're not playing games on Fridays because the sanctity of high school football, and we want to be out there watching the kids play. And, of course, everybody now plays except Michigan, Ohio State. They don't play on Friday. Nebraska, they're playing on Friday. 2 games on Friday this year. Nebraska and Illinois, Friday, October 6th, 7 p.m. on Fox Sports 1. That one not so big. Here's the biggie. Iowa, Nebraska, which has been on Black Friday for years, stays on Black Friday, but it's moved up 11 a.m. Central Time on Black Friday and on CBS now. Remember, CBS is starting its Big Ten deal this fall. That's to clear out. Remember, that Iowa-Nebraska game has been late afternoon, but remember, the NFL now is coming in. The Dolphins and the Jets are playing on Amazon at whatever it is, 2 or 2:30 on Black Friday. So Iowa, Nebraska gets moved to 11 a.m. on November the 24th on CBS. So the Huskers play twice on Fridays this year. If they were any good, they'd be playing on Saturdays all the time. You don't see Michigan playing on Friday. You don't see Ohio State playing on Friday. The Huskers, you know who plays on Friday? The Gophers. They play on Fridays all the time. Let's get you ready for what to watch before we get out of here on this Wednesday. By the way, if you missed the American Gladiators first part, it was awesome. It was so good. The second part is tonight, 8 o'clock on ESPN. Honest, it reminded me of when I was 13 years old. I never missed an episode. Whether it was the Joust, the Atmosphere, I got all of our staff is like 25 or younger. They have no idea what I'm talking about. Go YouTube American Gladiators. You won't move from your computer for like 2 hours. It was the coolest thing. It's on again tonight, 8 o'clock, ESPN, the second part of the documentary. Twins and Astros coming up 7 o'clock tonight. Bally Sports North on that one. We mentioned Louis Varland, Hunter Brown will be your starters as the Twins go for a series win against the Astros. And wrap it up today, the NCAA Golf Championships, 3 o'clock on the Golf Channel. If you've not watched any of that, it is, first off, high-quality stuff. The golf is great. The production value is fantastic. Florida advanced for the first time. They're going to face off. I think it's interesting. I think that's Florida and Florida State that are facing in the golf championship later today, 3 o'clock on the Golf Channel. It's good stuff. I just like seeing more live TV in the middle of the sports TV in the middle of the day. That's fine by me. And that's coming up to wrap up the day. By the way, Ben Joyce pitches for the Angels, if you couldn't tell in that graphic. Throws 110 miles an hour. He's pretty good. We got to roll. Thanks to our guests today, to Drew Trafton, to Dick Bremer, and to Jacob Rodin. If you missed any of our show, you can podcast it later today at Inforum.com. For you Twins fans, I hope you can watch the game somewhere tonight. We may have resolution tomorrow. We'll talk about it then. We'll see you then on Hot Mic on WDAY Extra, KSFL TV in Sioux Falls, at Inforum.com.
Stay prepared for the days and nights ahead with the best weather team. Download the Storm Tracker app, powered by Laney's. Get alerts and updates straight from the WDAY Storm Tracker team with accurate weather reports specific to your area. Just search WDAY in the Apple or Google Play Store. Download the Storm Tracker app and be ready to plan your day. The Storm Tracker app, powered by Laney's. Download it today.
On the next Tamron Hall, they are the WWE stars known to fans as Carmella and Corey Graves, but now they have a new title, Mom and Dad. They talked to us about the complicated pregnancy journey that's led them to expecting their first child together. Then, they are the love stories that make us laugh, cry, and sometimes even blush. We talked to the host of the New York Times popular Modern Love podcast about the stories that shocked her the most on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
On the next Tamron Hall, they are the WWE stars known to fans as Carmella and Corey Graves, but now they have a new title, Mom and Dad. They talked to us about the complicated pregnancy journey that's led them to expecting their first child together. Then, they are the love stories that make us laugh, cry, and sometimes even blush. We talked to the host of the New York Times popular Modern Love podcast about the stories that shocked her the most on the next Tamron Hall.
Weekdays at 2 p.m.
News happens at all hours of the day and night.
Stories develop and situations change in the blink of an eye.
In our community, knowing where you can turn at any time of the day
for clear information and facts
is more important today than at any other time.
That's why we start our day
in the middle of the night
to gather new information
and be ready to bring it to you.
Tracking what has changed overnight and how that will impact your day today.
We're here for you with the most up-to-date news and weather
to get you on your way,
because your community
is our community.
News.
Happy Wednesday. I look outside in Detroit Lakes and a beautiful blue sky out there today after it's been a warm start in the temperature department. Some spots already in the upper 60s, close to 70 degrees here this morning. Few more rumbles today. I'll tell you where they are now and where they're headed next and who could see a token severe storm later on this afternoon. Before we talk about today in our word of the day, how warm it has really been this month, all the way from a chilly April to a warm May. It's all coming up on WDAY News at 11 that starts right now.